All right, so today I want to talk about reactions, and mainly because this is one of the funniest Twitter interactions I've seen in a while, right? It all starts with this from Libby, who's actually legitimately a really strong player. They recently just got second at Versus Fighting in Guilty Gear, so no shade on them. They're actually really good, and it's really cool to see when good players say things, right, about the game. So they say if you genuinely don't think 18 frames is reactable offline, it is legitimately a skill issue. And which I think that's debatable, right? There's certain moves, like for example, drive impact, that people still get hit by. That's 26 frames. People still get hit by overheads in Street Fighter 6 offline. That's 21, 22 frames. People still get hit by uncharged dust offline. That's 20 frames. And so Jetstream, another really strong player, you know, takes this and then overlays it with the tournament footage. And here's an example of them getting hit by an overhead. This is 20 frames, keep it in mind. So that's 2 frames slower than what they should be able to react to, right? And yeah, they get hit, right? And so like, you know, like that's just a one-off. And Libby says, actually get a job. I had a 90% block rate. And of course, I love the pettiness here. In the tournament run that happened last week, they looked through every single time they got hit by an uncharged dust and calculated the ratio of whether it hit or didn't. As you can see, not quite the 90% win rate. I mean, yeah, success rate we're looking for. And they did block some, right? Like it's not completely flushed. And if we scroll to the end, this again, they got second in the tournament, so there's a lot of footage, right? But yeah, you keep going. It's about like, yeah, I think they calculated the ratio. It was about like 1/3 of the time they were able to block, right? And yes, like I think some of them were unfair. Like for example, this one here should not count. Not this one. This one, because this is a counter hit, right? So that like they weren't gonna block regardless, right? But yeah, so the amount of pettiness, I absolutely love this. This is the kind of stuff in FGC I really enjoy, because it's kind of cool seeing like that someone so good. Again, Libby is a really strong player, can have this kind of misconception on like what's reactable and what's not, and about their own gameplay. And I have a few thoughts on this, right? One is, why is someone saying they have a 90% block rate when they clearly didn't? I think some of that comes down to selective memory, right? I think as a competitor, you're kind of incentivized to have a selective memory and upplay your wins and downplay your losses, right? Because imagine like you sit down to play and you're like, man, I keep losing. All I do is lose. Like that's a really bad mindset to get into, right? And if you believe you could do something, like let's say I think I have really good execution, then I'm gonna have the confidence to execute in game, right? Or if I only think of the times that I drop the combo, therefore I'm gonna have lower confidence and it's gonna be harder to play. So this is actually really common among top players, is that they have this kind of like bias towards positivity because it's what helps drive their confidence, right? So I don't think this isn't like unique to them. This is kind of a thing, but I think there's a misconception actually among a lot of top players about what is reactable and what's not. And if you do the math, you would think that you should be able to react to something 18 frames. So for example, I don't have the best reactions. I actually have a laggy wireless mouse, so this is gonna be a little slow, but let me do a reaction time test and just see what it looks like, right? So this is a terrible result. 280 milliseconds is not very good. But if you do, let's calculate this, right? 280 divided by 1000 times 60, right? Because it's 60 frames per second. So this means I can react to something in 16.8 frames, right? Which is actually better than this 18 frames is reactable offline. So what's going on here, right? And like I can get a lot better. Might determine now. Again, laggy mouse doesn't count. But the average, you're right. Average reaction time is 273. you get the idea. This is less than 15 frames. So if I can react to something in less than 15 frames, and I'm a boomer, why can't Libby react to something that's 20 frames, right? And a couple things going on, right? One is the game itself, in order like the way rollback works and the way the games are designed, is that on frame one, on frame one of this, right, it turns green. On frame one of this, you're not seeing the dust, right? It's kind of hard to see, and I can't like really frame count here. But the startup on a lot of these moves is disguised. That it doesn't look exactly like, it's not as drastic of a change from like red to green, right? And oftentimes there'll be like 2 or 3 frames of startup that look just like the idle animation to avoid like stutters and rollback and that sort of thing. Right? And I'm not 100% sure about uncharged dust, but that's common for a lot of moves, is that the startup of moves is like disguised for the first few frames, right? The second thing is offline setups vary drastically, right? There is a recent Nephew post, Nephew offline setups vary drastically. This is Nephew, one of the strongest American players, out at BAM, flying 16 hours to play on monitors with no VRR and 3 frames more of input lag has been pretty funny. I hope to never do it again. Offline is, honestly, offline is often typically laggier than online. I know that sounds weird, but due to how good PCs are and how much less input lag a PC has than like a PS5 that's as the offline standard, it's very typical that offline either has the same amount of input lag or typically less input lag than a very optimized PC setup that most top players are playing on nowadays, right? So even though you'd think, yeah, offline I should be able to do it, depending on the setup and the monitor, it might actually be laggier, right? Not to mention the game inherently has input lag, right? Just like my mouse, you guys can't even see the mouse, has input lag. The actual games themselves have even more input lag, right? So if we just Google like input lag, Guilty Gear, Strive, yeah, here's an example. What the actual input lag is. And Guilty Gear is actually well below, but you can see here that PC has less input lag than PS5, but even PS5, you have already three frames of extra lag, right? So my, just in best case scenario, if you're using a good monitor, obviously like there's probably a better case scenario where if you use like a higher hertz monitor that refreshes the frame rate quicker, you get like less input lag, right? But let's say it's 3 frames. So my natural reaction of 15 frames now turns to 18 frames, right? Okay, that was more accurate. All right, we're warming up. What do you see? We're warming up, right? Confirmed not a boomer. Let's go. Also, another random misconception about reactions and input lag is people say, hey, Diaphone, the game is 60 frames per second. Why does having a high refresh rate monitor matter? The easiest way to explain it is that the quicker the refresh rate, yes, it doesn't make the game go 120 frames per second, 240 frames per second, but it makes that frame come faster, right? So if the frame is coming faster to your monitor, then therefore you can see it quicker and therefore you can react quicker, right? It's a little more detailed than that. The second thing I want to talk about is mental stack, right? Mental stack is a real thing. So why do people get hit by drive impact? Drive impact is not a 18 frame reaction. It's not a 20 frame reaction. It's actually a 26 frame reaction. What's going on there, right? Here's an example of Sako, one of the players known for crazy good reactions, right? They used to be able to like react to certain things with Ultra, and yes, they're Onk status now, but just to show you an example of like some of the like unhinged things that people can do and that like they're not ready for, right? Yeah, Sako is almost 50, but crouch heavy punch DI. At high level, you almost never see this kind of thing, right? Apparently the stream setups were laggy and Sako probably wasn't looking out for it, right? And a combination of those two things leads into, yeah, your tournament life going bye-bye, right? Here's another example. Round start, teleport. Stand heavy kick. you have about 2/3 of a second to react to it. Screw the 18 frame reaction speed. This is like a 40 frame reaction speed. All you had to do is press a button in 2/3 of a second and you could have stopped this, right? But again, if you're not looking out for it, it's really hard. And just to simulate what this would be like, but let's say I open up like 3 windows of this. And the point I'm trying to make here is that the more things you have to react to, the harder that it is to actually react, right? So while one thing is possible, 2, 3, 4, the harder it gets, right? All right. I'm gonna lock in like I've never locked in before. Okay, I can't only get 3. Fuck! You get the point though, right? You get the point. Is like this is actually legitimately hard. All right, let's do 4 for real this time. Okay. All right, this is not. The point has been made. I think the point has been made. So what do a lot of people do in this kind of things? You anticipate. So example of anticipation is if I start the one on the left 3 seconds earlier than the rest of them, I assume that the one on the left, top left, is actually gonna start first. I'm able to react quicker, right? And you see the one on the top left was actually the quickest because I could focus more of my mental energy on the one on the top left. So that's how a lot of players like will circumvent things, is that if they're looking for something specific, they're able to dedicate more mental energy to that specific reaction. So that brings us back to this clip. So really, what's going on here? There's just a lot to react to, right? Zato has a lot of different things, right? You know, for example, like after this knockdown, after this, he could cancel into JD, and it's a double overhead. He can go into a low. He can go dash up throw. He can make the Eddie do things. There's tons of different things that the character can do. And really, a combination of mental stack, offline lag, and inherent lag in the game is really what makes these things hard. And the reason why I want to talk about this is that a lot of people have this misconception of like what you're able to react to and what you're not. And if you're able to understand what's truly reactable and what's not, then you can design your game around that, right? Because one of the strongest things you could do actually is being able to react to something, right? Because it's a more consistent answer than guessing. But truly being able to understand what you can react to and what you can't in a given situation gives you the knowledge to help design a better game plan. It's very likely, after watching a set, if Preacher didn't get hit by all these overheads, probably would have won grand finals. I don't know, maybe they just need to, maybe they reach Unk status, who knows? Anyways, yeah, reactions are important, but I think understanding what you can react to and what you can't is even more important. So anyways, like, share, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll catch you in the next one.